All right, so this is my final thoughts on the Ninja Woodfire grill, and I'm gonna compare it to my previous Ninja Foodie grill, which is a FG551. They also call it the 6-in-1 air fryer. And as you can see, I have my Ninja blender here too. So I'm usually a big fan of Ninja, but we'll kind of discuss why I say I'm usually because I kind of feel like the Ninja Woodfire is a big miss. Now, before I say that, the FG551 in this more or less has the same functions. If you look at all the different selections that you can choose along, for the settings for the grill, they're basically the same minus the smoker. The smoker setting just lets you set this to a lower temperature. Like bake, I don't think we'll let you go below 300, 350 Fahrenheit. All the other settings like air crisp, grill, broil, they're pretty high temp heating. Dehydrate, I think, goes on the lowest setting. So you could do a dehydrate on here, I think, and let me see. Yeah, so it does let you go down pretty low. So that's pretty cool because the thing I think this thing is a big miss is the smoke fire thing, the pellet hopper thing here, it's just a big gimmick. I mean, it really just doesn't work very well in terms of doing low and slow smoked barbecue. I did a 6-hour, 7-hour pork butt. It was a small one, 3.5 pounds. And I pretty much used up an entire bag of the all-purpose blend pellets, which is about a pound. And I could already tell, like, it's just not going to be enough. I've done a lot of smoking on upright drum smokers, like the Weber Smoky Mountain, using wood chunks. And in the barbecue world, that's pretty much the standard, for the person who is doing barbecue every so often at home. They usually recommend doing wood chunks on an upright drum smoker. And not a lot of people have the time to babysit and offset, managing a fire and putting in chunks or like splits of wood. That's just going overboard. You got to be a true barbecue aficionado to head that route. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is the pellet grill. So I've done a lot of smoking with Traegers. My friends have Traegers. They're okay. I mean, Traegers in the barbecue world are kind of known for just being middling in terms of the pellet grills. There's much higher end ones that people go to. And also, there's been a lot of debate about which pellets to use, because if you go onto a lot of these pellet grill forums, you'll see a lot of newbies to the world just complain that they don't taste a lot of smoke out of the pellet grills. So they resort to these things like pellet tubes or smoke, or what they call smoke snakes or snake tubes. And it's basically like a pellet tube, but it kind of just winds around like a maze and sort of like a snake. And they put pellets in it, light one in, and it just kind of goes and smolders all the way through, adding more smokiness to the pellet grill, which is pretty ironic because they're both burning pellets. And why would you have to resort to a smoke tube in a pellet grill that's burning pure pellets? It's ridiculous. But knowing that, I already kind of knew this thing wouldn't be that great. But the biggest issue was I didn't know how bad it would be. Like, I did that pork butt, I used about a pound of pellets, and based on some of the other reviewers I've seen on YouTube do reviews on this, when I've seen their barbecue and they cut into it, I could not see any discernible smoke ring, not like a hint of one. A good smoke ring would penetrate probably maybe like a 1/4 inch into the bark. and like these barbecue, like these Canadian gals did one, and they kind of did a chicken. This gal like in Georgia has her own channel, and she was doing a review on this, and she cut into some baby backs. This other guy did a brisket on one of these things for a really long time. I think he had the most accurate assessment when he cut into the brisket. Like there's no smoke ring, there was none. The other gals, like you could not see a hint of a smoke ring when they, shredded into their barbecue, and but they all thought it had this nice smoky flavor. I didn't taste a hint of smoke in the pork butt at all. It just tasted like, I don't know, like a grilled pork butt with a rub on it. It had nice bark, but that you could do that on anything. You could do it on this. Probably I haven't tried it, but I mean, if I put it on the Dehydrate level and pumped it up to 225, yeah, I'm pretty sure you could do a pork butt in that. I might try at some point. But on here, it just had no smoke, or no smokiness, and it definitely had no smoke ring. Now, I think that's why, if I were to choose, and you were looking at the prices between the both of these, I think this is starting off around 400. You can get this for about 200. I've seen them even as low as 120 refurb nowadays, which is amazing. I would hands down go for this, especially since this has the meat thermometer, and it plugs in here, and this thing is a game changer. I think if this thing was a pro model, the pro model of the Ninja Woodfire does have this. I would be more happier with this, because in that way I could just get rid of this thing. I wouldn't need this. I would just give it to my in-laws, and then I could just replace that with this thing. Even though the smoking function sucks, but I can't because it's not the pro version. And really, this thing is a game changer. If you put this in there, this thing is like a set it and forget it cooker, like a pellet grill. I mean, that's really why people buy pellet grills for smoking, because you don't want to babysit a fire or a cook chamber for, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours doing brisket. With a pellet grill, you just put it in there and it just manages itself. So that's what kind of this thing is about. You just put it into any piece of meat, set the internal temp before shut off, and it would just cook it to that temp and shut off. And that's why I love this thing a lot. Now, I got to say there are some definitely improvements of this over this. This thing actually has a heating element under the grill grate, which is great because this thing will heat up this griddle to do like steaks. It could sear meats. They even have a completely flat top version of this you can buy on Ninja, so you can use it as like a griddle and make pancakes and whatever. This thing doesn't have it. It just preheats the grill so that it gets hot, so whatever you put on there sears, and it works great, for the most part. But now here's the bad thing about this thing on this Woodfire grill. Even though it has this heating element to preheat this griddle or the grill top, you cannot do open top cooking. So that just kind of sucks. I mean, what's the point if they're calling this a grill? Grills, usually you open the top, the burner's going, and you're cooking whatever, like hamburgers, hot dogs, on there. That's like a grill. But this thing you can't. And I've heard other reviewers on YouTube say you can do open cooktop cooking with this. No, you can't. It's all closed top. You have to shut this. It just preheats this with the heating element, and then faster, so that when it comes up to the preheat temp, you open it up, put whatever on there, and it starts to sear right away. But you can't just keep it open and have the heating element running, cooking whatever that's on there. So that kind of sucks. It's both a pro and a con. I mean, if they had made the open cooktop option, like, you know, maybe have another setting here called open cooktop or something, that would have been a lot better. You know, you can set that flat top griddle here and do pancakes or whatever and just have it open the whole time. Like, you know, why do you have to keep closing this thing? So yeah, pros and cons. The other thing I do like about this thing versus that is that there is a drip pan underneath here, and if I go on the back side, it comes out on the bottom. But this thing drips grease, fat, whatever you're cooking, any kind of pan drippings, and it goes down, and you essentially get rendered tallow off the bottom in the drip pan, which is great because the big thing in barbecue world nowadays is they use tallow, rendered tallow, and they use that to put on the barbecued meat right before they wrap, and it adds to that unctuous moisture that people perceive when they're eating, you know, really good brisket. It's not, that moisture isn't like a liquid. It's really what they're perceiving is fat. So they're adding rendered fat to the cook. This thing was great because, I mean, when I did that pork butt, there was so much rendered fat on the bottom of the drip pan that it, you know, I used some of it on the pork butt when I wrapped it. So yeah, anyways, it's in the back. That's another feature I really like of this over that. But really, that's all there is to it. I mean, the cook chamber is bigger, so I mean, you could have a bigger piece of meat as opposed to this, I guess. This thing is fairly shallow, so it's, you know, not that great as opposed to this. You could do maybe a small brisket. It will fit. A bigger pork butt, like 8 to 10 pounder, you could probably do in this thing. But as a smoker, it is pretty bad. And because it's just a small smoke chamber or cooking chamber, you know, you really should be putting in a water pan, because when I did the smoked salmon on this, it just was so dry after 2 hours. I had to throw it away. I mean, it was terrible. And yeah, so when I did the pork butt, I put a little water pan. It's in the part of the other video, and it amazingly, I've never seen a water pan evaporate as fast. I mean, ever. I've never seen it evaporate completely in other cookers. On this, like 2 or 3 hours in, all the water was gone. So that's pretty interesting. That just tells me that this thing is a really small cook chamber. It gets pretty hot. I mean, it runs hotter than its stated temperature as compared to my temp probe. And I don't know, you kind of want to make sure you put water in there. So it's not really a set it and forget it thing. You need to manage the water pan. And finally, I mean, I guess I do like this. They have this air vent, so you could, I mean, like what I was thinking I might try at some point is getting a snake tube or a smoke tube and putting it here along with the piece of meat, and just seeing if that would help with the smokiness. That if it could run 8 hours with smoke, then I could maybe produce some good smoked barbecue in this thing. But then what's the point of even having this, right? Because then you might as well just use something like that and put a snake tube in there. And I mean, there is no air vent at the back like this, but I mean, really, the top, you know, or actually it's in the back. The back does have an air vent, so it does just get pushed out somewhere. This thing sucks just because it's just such a small pellet hopper, and the pellets go like that. I mean, the guy that did a brisket on YouTube on one of these things, he said maybe 45 minutes at tops. No, I think maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes at tops of smoke. But more than likely, once the ignition goes and you will see flames sometimes coming out if there's a lot of air flowing underneath here. Oh man, like 15 minutes maybe. 15 minutes of smoke and then it's just like nothing. So really, Ninja should have made a big pellet hopper coming out of this thing. Like maybe at least I don't know, just a bigger pellet hopper. It might be better, but the way it is now, it sucks. You're just going to be constantly feeding this thing pellets, trying to get smoke, and it's just going to be a pain in the butt. So anyways, as a smoker, this thing is a 0. I don't know. I don't know why people on YouTube and on Amazon are saying, "Oh yeah, I get smoky flavors." I mean, seriously, if you're a Southerner and you claim you like smoked barbecue and you're saying this thing has smoky barbecue, you need to check your credentials, because I'm not even from the South, and I'm like the farthest from the South. I'm from Hawaii, and I think I know better barbecue than these guys do, because I mean, I can't taste anything out of this. So yeah, that's my final review. As a air fryer, Ninjas are great. They're the best, I think, in the world. These are the only ones that can get up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. They have a broil function because they have electric heating elements on the top. They have all these innovative features like automated thermometer probing, stuff like that, which this one doesn't. But I mean, as a smoker, this thing is garbage. So yeah, that's my review. All right, I foiled it. Added some of that pork tallow and spritzed it with apple cider vinegar and water mixture at around 180 Fahrenheit internal temp, and then we let it cook at around 225 about 225 to 250 in the grill or the smoker for about 2 hours, and it hit internal temp of about 200, and then I stopped it, let it rest, and just open it. Maybe rested about 45 minutes now. So internal temp is about I say 170, and I'll start to test it out, like pull it apart when it gets down to about 150. It's really tender. Yeah, well, not right here. That's kind of tough right here. It's tender. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fat, I think. Okay, that's nice. But of course, it's not because of it was smoking. It's just been cooking at a low temperature for a long time. On the bottom, all that liquid, it's some of the rendered pork tallow and some of the apple cider vinegar mixture. So I'm just gonna let it sit here and pull it apart. One thing I did want to mention is I pretty much use an entire bag of this stuff to do this one cook. They say in the manual that 2 cups is all you need, but no, I mean, you really need a lot more than that, and you'll be babysitting this thing, constantly feeding it pellets. So that's not great. When we shred this, we're gonna see if there's any smoke ring. The ones that I've seen online on YouTube and stuff, there's this one guy who did a review on it and did a brisket, kind of a half a brisket really, but it came from a Packer style brisket from Porter Road, which is a well-known meat company. And yeah, there was no smoking ring in his. I mean, he even said, yeah, there's no smoke ring. There's smoke flavor, but really it's just because the smoke hasn't really penetrated the meat, but it's just kind of and it's like liquid smoke. I mean, you put liquid smoke on anything, it's going to kind of taste smoky, or even smoked paprika too. So it's just more of a superficial layer of smoke probably that he's tasting. But really, when you want to do something big, like a big chunk of meat, you want that smoke to penetrate deeply. So you get a lot more smoke flavor when you shred it or cut it up. you know, it's not just like this thin layer of smokiness. Because if you're gonna get that, you might as well just use liquid smoke. Anyways, come back later and videotape it, shred it apart. All right, starting to shred this up, just my hands. It's pretty much falling apart on its own, but yeah, there's no real smoke ring on this thing. I mean, like zilch. There's no redness. Like right here, you can't see anything. It's just basically pork. I mean, like this is kind of like in Hawaii, Kalua pig. You know, there's like barely any smokiness. They just braise this stuff and slow cook it in like some sort of leafy vessel. It's like the leaf is kind of like their imitation of aluminum foil, but definitely no smoke penetration at all. Now, how does it taste? Yeah, can't taste smokiness barely at all. Like zilch. I taste the rub. It tastes like pork. I mean, really porky, which I'm not a big fan of. I kind of like, that's why I like pork to be really well smoked, because then it takes that pork kind of flavor out of it. I'm not a big fan of pork, and actually I don't really eat too much meat nowadays in general, but this is really not good barbecue. I mean, it's good as like a pork. I mean, if you're into, you know, like maybe making some sort of a, oh man, what's that? Like barbacoa, but I think that's with cow cheek. It's a beef. It's not like pork, but you know, something like that. Or it's like a braised or type of a meat. But absolutely no smoke flavor at all. Yeah, none. Oh well, not so surprised. You don't really see in here, like there's no smoke ring at all. Usually like with this, when I used to smoke pork butts on my Weber Smoky Mountain, which is like a, what they call a UDS smoker, an upright jump smoker, there'd be like probably a good quarter to half an inch of redness around the bark. This thing is like nothing. So yeah, big disappointment. Not surprised, but I don't know. I think if you're looking to get into smoking, if you have like a charcoal grill, just start learning how to use a Minden method, and you can sort of do an offset, have charcoal on one side, put wood chunks. That would be a lot more smoky than this, and better flavor. I mean, everyone in the barbecue world knows pellet grills just do not really do well with smoke. It's, if you were to rank them, it's pellets on the low end, wood chunks, and then full on wood logs. I mean, what they call stick burners, offset smokers that are just burning like big full on cuts of wood. And this is just not, I mean, it's even worse than a pellet grill. Our friend of ours has a Traeger, which is like middle low end on the pellet grill world. And even that does a better job, a much better job. It's fully burning pellets the whole time, like than this. So, yep. I don't know, not good. All right.